Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Morrison, and I'm here to discuss with you the issue of human rights and national security. So, should we suspend human rights for national security reasons? Absolutely not, and this is why. Years ago, in 1948, the United Nations held an assembly in Paris to proclaim the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, also known as UDHR. The UDHR's aim is to uphold and respect an individual's dignity and ensure his or her rights. The preamble of the UDHR is a recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family, is a foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. In this declaration, there are 30 articles. The most prominent article in the Declaration for the argument I'm making is Article 5, where it states, "No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment." In simple terms, Article 5 protects your and my right to liberty and security. An important question that arises, however, is does this article apply to those that the United States is fighting in their war on terrorism? There have been numerous accusations against the United States declaring that there have been cases confirmed in concern with mass surveillance, arbitrary detainment, and torture following 9/11. Following 9/11, President Bush authorized the use of vicious interrogation practices like waterboarding and sleep deprivation at a facility known as Guantanamo Bay. There are said to have been alleged violations of human rights of those captured under the Geneva Conventions. According to an article in Britannica, hundreds of prisoners from several countries were held at the camp without charge and without the legal means to challenge their detentions, going against Article 5 of the UDHR. However, Bush came back to say that since the base was, 1, outside of the U.S. territory, and 2, the fact that they were not required to observe the Geneva Conventions regarding the treatment of prisoners and of war and civilians during wartime, the actions they were taking on the war against terrorism were not unlawful and not a violation of human rights. The conventions supposedly did not apply to unlawful enemy combatants, which Bush claimed that they were. Guantanamo Bay has been condemned by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the International Committee of the Red Cross for alleged human rights violations, including the use of various forms of torture during interrogations, examples being the waterboarding and sleep deprivation. Another excuse by the Bush administration can be seen in the case of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's interrogation, the alleged plotter of the 9/11 attacks. Apparently, the administration claimed that such torturous techniques gave them valuable intelligence on the leadership, methods, and plans of al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations. Bush uses the 9/11 attacks as a narrative to justify the torturous techniques used at Guantanamo. In his speech on terrorism on September 6, 2006, he said, "Today's war is, above all, a struggle for freedom and liberty. We're fighting for our way of life and our ability to live in freedom. We're fighting for the cause of humanity against those who seek to impose the darkness of tyranny and terror upon the entire world." He declared that this is a struggle in freedom of liberty. But what about the rights of those detained, tortured, and those unable to have a fair trial? As Sunni stated in his article, "Why We Hate You," the first and most palpable effect of 9/11 is a heightened fear and insecurity, powerful emotions that both motivate and justify certain kinds of actions, while at the same time clouding our reason. In this case, torture has been justified by the Bush administration. I would like to reiterate the importance of Article 5 of the UDHR that has been and continues to be violated at Guantanamo Bay. The right to liberty in Article 5 states that, firstly, everyone has the right to liberty and security of person. Secondly, everyone who is arrested shall be informed properly, in a language which he understands, of the reasons for his arrest and of any charge against him. Thirdly, everyone arrested or detained in accordance with the provisions of paragraph 1C of this article shall be brought promptly before a judge or other officer authorized by law to exercise judicial power and shall be entitled to trial within a reasonable time or to release pending trial. Fourthly, everyone who is deprived of his liberty by arrest or detention shall be entitled to take proceedings by which the lawfulness of his detention shall be decided speedily by court, and his release ordered if the detention is not lawful. And lastly, everyone who has been the victim of arrest or detention in contravention of the provisions of this article shall have an enforceable right to compensation. In conclusion, should we suspend human rights for security reasons? No. As a country that promotes human rights nationally, it is only fitting if we abide by those standards that the UN set in place in 1948. Sunni said, "After all, terrorism is about producing fear. That's what terrorists do. They use a psychological weapon to reach their political goals. If the public is afraid or reacts from fear, thus aiding the terrorists in their struggle against it, it is probable that subsequent actions taken out of fear, anger, or hatred, or a sense of retribution or revenge, while providing temporary solace, will lead not to a greater security, but to inappropriate and counterproductive activities." Thank you for listening.